So in this video, I'm going to go over Meta. Is it qualify as a buy, borrow, die stock? Ideally, can we hold this stock forever? Now, of course, we don't know what's going to happen in 20 years, but I like to try our best and make a long-term decision as I'm a long-term investor. Right now, I'm looking at buy, borrow, die on Meta, and I would say it does qualify for a buy, borrow, die stock as long as Mark Zuckerberg is the CEO. So right now, the valuation of Meta is so attractive, extremely attractive, because Wall Street are punishing the companies, the hyperscalers, for reinvesting in themselves. They hate capital expenditure because it reduces the free cash flow of the company, which means less shareholder value. They would rather the company did not reinvest in itself and had a high free cash flow, good for shareholders, but the company dies within 5 years. So that is the Wall Street way. However, Wall Street are missing so much about Meta. There is so much going on with Meta right now that the market is completely missing, completely sleeping on. Meta is becoming a utility. It is not just an advertising company. It is so much more than that, and I'm going to break this down. This video could be an hour long of me going through it, but I like to be dense. I like to be straight to the point. So right now, the valuation, it is growing at 26.8% year over year. That is the operating cash flow. I like to use cash flow. I don't like to use revenue or earnings per share. I like to just look at the cash. Cash is the reality. 14 times cash flow earnings, that's what I'm looking at. I have been conservative because I've adjusted that for stock-based compensation. So the PEG ratio, 0.52. Anything under a 1 PEG is a fantastic entry. However, anything above a 1 PEG could be classed as expensive. Anything above a 2 is extremely expensive. So the market is punishing Meta for its capital expenditure. We are in an AI arms race, so it's natural that all the hyperscalers are heavily investing in the future. This is a good thing because it means the barrier to entry is going to be impossible for future companies. So we want these strong moats that increase the barrier to entry for startups. So let's get into it. Let's just start off with the core business model. Instagram, Facebook, advertising. This is what primarily prints the money for Meta, and it is now getting even stronger for the clients. What I love about Meta is clients are businesses. This immediately tells me it has pricing power. Pricing power is one of the most important factors that I like to look at when I'm investing in a company, because a business is getting money back by investing in Meta. Every time it spends $1 on ads, it's getting $2 to $3 back, meaning it is a magic button for money. That is why it's so strong, and it's getting even stronger. Instagram has now got the license for Midjourney. Midjourney is the best AI image generator that I have seen. And anyone that has used Midjourney or looked at the images for Midjourney would agree. It is undisputed. It is fantastic at creating content for advertisers. So advertisers will then have less money to spend on production, such as photo shoots and material and content. They can now use Midjourney, and Meta is assisting them, is giving them this platform to create advertisements for their clients. This is AI assisted they're introducing Manus, which they have just acquired, as we know. So it's going to be better for advertisers, which frees up more cash flow for them to spend on ads, which increases Meta's advertising income. Let's not forget Threads. Okay, Threads has been successful. It's now surpassed X, previously known as Twitter. This is the classic Mark Zuckerberg strategy. What he likes to do is give a platform and not run ads on it to allow the customers to use the platform, and then eventually he'll begin running ads on it. And he's now going to be running ads on Threads after I think 2.5 years of the platform being launched, which we project an additional $10 billion a year in revenue. So that is Threads creating more income for Meta, and that is a direct competitor to X. and I believe it will vastly surpass it, as it already is proven. Okay, so we have the purchase of Manus. Now this is very interesting because Manus is not a chatbot, it's an AI agent, and it completes tasks for people. He paid, I think, $2 billion Meta paid for the platform, and it is an agent which is going to lead to a massive attack on Google. Because if customers are using an AI agent to, say, book a flight or to do an activity, they didn't go into Google to search whatsoever. So this is a massive attack on Google. Now, if you combine this with WhatsApp, you have massive potential. Because now we're talking an attack on the labour market. WhatsApp is a potential to replace businesses' call centres, customer service, and even salespeople. Because one thing I can tell you is AI could potentially sell better than a human, especially when it's a text format. Because one thing we know about AI is it's fantastic at persuasion, it is fantastic at communication. So that is another potential opportunity with Meta, with WhatsApp. You see, technology can be copied, like AI models can be copied. What you can't copy is 3 billion users. You have 3 billion users in the family of apps across Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, Threads. That is a moat within itself. Getting 3 billion people to come off a platform, getting 3 billion people to do anything is impossible, right? So that friction is what's creating a moat, and Meta has that, and Wall Street are ignoring that. That is the asset, that is arguably the strongest asset that Meta has. So, and this is something with WhatsApp that Americans aren't understanding, because they don't really use WhatsApp as much as Europe do, and South America, India, Brazil. For them, WhatsApp is the internet. It's almost like the version of WeChat in China. So WhatsApp is massive in these countries in South America and Africa as well. And that has a massive monetization potential. Huge potential, because rather than trying to sell advertisement to these countries, because they might not have the purchasing power that America does and Europe does, they can charge transaction fees for future businesses, and that is a gold mine, and we're going to talk about that. Meta Ray-Bans and Oakleys. Okay, this is something that people are again sleeping on as well. This is the sort of Henry Ford moment, I like to call it. Because right now, the Meta Ray-Bans and Oakleys, the sales have tripled year over year. This is an attack on Apple. So what we're thinking is, smart glasses, people right now think, you know, they're not interested in using them instead of their phone. Now, Henry Ford once said, if he asked his customers what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Yeah? That's kind of what I'm looking at with the smart glasses. I'm not going to say that smart glasses are going to replace phones, but I do believe that you can at least take 2.5% of the market share. All it really is going to take for people to start using the smart glasses more is really if a celebrity or an influencer or someone with a high social status leaves the house without their phone and has their Meta Ray-Bans. That is really what it will take, because it takes away the view of someone looking like a drone, like an NPC, hunched over, staring at their phone. They look closed off, they don't look social. Whereas someone who's like, glasses are on, the head is up, they look more sociable, they look more approachable, they can do everything off the phone, they can use WhatsApp, they can use Instagram. Most importantly, the biggest potential that it has is it is creating content for people. And it is natural social interactions. You've seen the people that have recordings on their Meta Ray-Bans and they're speaking to people, and it's a social interaction, and it is so much more authentic than someone with a phone right in their face. Someone's got a phone in their face with the flash on, immediately that feeling of someone recording you, you're immediately in defensive position. Meta Ray-Bans are changing that. The fact is, if you're going to wear smart glasses, they're going to be Meta Ray-Bans. They're not going to be Apple's version or Google's version, because it's a fashion item. If it's a pair of Oakleys or a pair of Meta Ray-Bans, they look good, and they're only going to improve that. They're going to look less and less techy, and I do believe that there's huge potential in that market. It just takes the right moment for the right person to be seen wearing them and to be seen using them. And that's really all it takes, because humans are really, they are sheep, okay? That's the end of the day, they are sheep. They see someone else that's cooler doing it and they go, oh, they're cool now, so why have I got this brick in my pocket? Plus, they are cheaper as well than iPhones. You know, I'm not saying this is going to happen in the next year or two, but it could be a slow accumulation, and I think even by 2030, they could take 2.5% of the hardware market. Direct attack on Apple. This is the first time potential I could see some sort of attack on Apple's market. Yeah, so big potential there, because I can imagine someone, if you could pay with your glasses, yeah, you could pay with them like Meta Pay. You can use WhatsApp, and you can upload things to Instagram. You can check social media. If it ever gets to a point where you can actually do everything on the glasses that you couldn't do on that you can do on a smartphone, then it's actually got super potential there, I would say. So massive potential. Failing that, at least it is creating content. It's creating content that people can upload onto Instagram Reels, and the more content that's getting created, the more people are on the app watching this content that's being created, and again, more ad revenue anyway. So maybe it's a stretch to say it starts replacing iPhones. I'm not saying that, but it has potential to at least sell 30 million units a year. Yeah, 2% of the market. Okay, the neural wristband, yeah. So we've seen the neural wristband. That is like the mouse, the computer mouse of the 21st century. That's a technology which, again, we're not really paying attention to, that has further use. It could be used. Perhaps with AI and the neural wristband, the metaverse might have potential again. If people are able to create AI-generated content on that metaverse, it could be a market there for gamers or whatever. I know metaverse didn't work out, but you know, that has potential there. I'm not even included that in the investment thesis. That just came to my head right there. Okay, but look at Meta's creating its own chips. So using Broadcom, they are creating their own chips. If they use their own chips, they're 70% cheaper than running their inference on a NVIDIA H100. So they'll be able to save a lot of money there. Okay, and this is the big factor that Wall Street have not priced in whatsoever. Now, if you haven't watched my part 2 video on Broadcom, you have to watch it, because Meta is tied into the partnership with NVIDIA and Broadcom. So what am I talking about? So the sovereign nations who are purchasing the AI from NVIDIA, they are getting Llama, which is the Meta's LLM, in the deal, in the package deal. This is massive, massive, massive. So Meta has given away Llama for free, yeah, because these nations are going to want to create their own classified AI models. How do they do that? They've got the NVIDIA GPUs and they've got Llama installed on them. Why did Mark Zuckerberg get the market share over Microsoft and Google? Microsoft and Google do not have a fully private offline cloud. So the AI model would be on Google's cloud or Microsoft Azure. Whereas Llama will be on the VMware. So it's fully offline. So nations have private AI. The US, the UK, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, they get the military version of Llama, which is, think of it, the jailbroken version of Llama. So they can use it for military use or super classified use. Other governments cannot get that version of it. They will have a version of it that can do other things and help their economically and other aspects, but not military use. So this is all, again, these deals are already signed. These sovereign nations have the AI models, the AI GPUs. However, the governments view capital expenditure as a one-time fee. This is not a one-time fee, this is a Trojan horse. Yeah, they think, oh, we've bought a supercomputer, therefore that's fine. However, AI always gets better and better. So in the next couple of years, Llama 5 will be out, it'll be 100 times smarter than the model the government has. This is a massive monetization potential, again, for Llama, for Meta. They say, okay, you want the latest version, that will cost 100 million, that will cost whatever the price is. There is no, again, this is pricing power, massive, massive pricing power. And again, no one's even looked at it because it's the classic Zuckerberg strategy. He is the master of the boiling frog. Give something away for free, monetize it later. Long-term thinking. And that is what's going to happen here. I mean, I've already made a video that Broadcom have got that same pricing power. Nvidia will have that same pricing power when you're charging a nation, a government. Governments are the dumb money. And that is why they are ideal clients, because they will pay, because they have to if they want to stay in the AI race. So Microsoft and Google did not get that deal. Okay, next part, Project Waterworth. Meta is creating its own private internet. So they have got the cables under the sea, circling Africa. I believe the cables go from like US to Africa through to Australia. And people again aren't really factoring in the massive geopolitical leverage, the potential for rent, privatised internet. They've got their own cables, they don't need to rely on AT&T. Private internet. So why does this matter? Why do we care about this? Why is he not putting the private internet through Europe? Europe is a museum. GDP stagnant, birth rates stagnant. Europe is just not a growing economy. It's just slow and stagnant. And I think the hyperscalers are realizing this, that all Europe want to do is just charge regulation fees, charge fees and charge taxes to the hyperscalers and big tech companies because they can't grow their GDP on their own, so they'll just take it from the big tech companies. So, Meta have identified this, whereas the global south is a factory. And what we're expecting here is we're expecting massive GDP growth in the African nations. So we're going to have Africa 37 billion over the next 3 years. What is so special about this? The reason this is important, Nigeria, Brazil, Indonesia, their privacy laws are flexible. Okay, they don't have very strict privacy regulations as Europe do. So this gives AI data fuel because we want the data to train the Llama models, and they can do that through the South American nations, the African nations, and they're happy because they're getting access to faster internet services that Meta has provided. This is not even priced in either, because what Meta can do with these countries is charge transaction fees, because more people on the internet, the economy, GDP is growing, more people on WhatsApp, more transaction fees. So people are buying things on WhatsApp. Meta can charge, say, 5 cents on a transaction. That's $25 million a day in potential income. So what you can see here is Meta is becoming a utility. We like utilities because a utility is a monopoly. So we've got the power as well. Nuclear deal signed, locked in, 2.0 gigawatts of energy through Vistra. So we've got the pipes, we've got the internet, we've got the AI agents, we've got the transaction fees on WhatsApp, we've got the ads, we've got the pricing power, we've got the government, sovereign nation lock-in with Llama. We have a lot going on with Meta. So you can see the market is not aware of Meta. They're too scared of the capital expenditure. The capital expenditure is building the moat. Other countries, other startups cannot compete with that. So we've got a fair valuation. Obviously, as long as Mark Zuckerberg is involved in Meta, which he's got a long runway, he is the youngest CEO and founder of the big tech companies. And that itself is something that people don't factor in. He is willing to do what it takes to keep Meta afloat. We saw that in 2022. He is arguably the CEO that has handled the most adversity. He has had the most existential level threats out of any other CEO or founder that I have seen with the Apple threats from Apple, TikTok, and various other reasons, and he's managed to adapt. Adaptability is something that we look at pricing power, we look at moat, we look at monopoly, but we don't look at adaptability, and he ticks the adaptability. He has proven that time and time again. So I am very bullish on Meta. It's no secret that I'm already an investor in Meta. I've made a video on Meta in the past, but this video I wanted to go through more. So it's been a lot to go over. I try to go through it as densely, as quickly as we can. So there we go. I will be making more videos on more stocks, doing the buy, borrow, die audit, and hope you enjoyed the video.